I'm Joe Agostinelli, Social Media Manager at Greenway Health, and this is another episode of Putting Possibility into Practice, the podcast from Greenway Health. And on this episode, I am joined by Larry Whiteside. He's our Chief Information Security Officer here at Greenway Health, and we're going to talk about cloud security and removing the mystery of security in the cloud. And I welcome Larry to the podcast for the first time. And Larry, why don't you just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your position here at Greenway Health, what brought you to Greenway Health, and kind of your past.
Sure. So first, thanks for having me. I like running my mouth a little bit, and those who know me have probably listened to a podcast or two or 10 or 20 that I've done before. So I enjoy doing these types of things. So about my role, so as the Chief Information Security Officer here at Greenway Health, I've got overall responsibility to put it as simply as possible for all aspects of information and data security. I've also taken on the role of all aspects of physical security as it relates to people, places, and technology. So I've got a little bit of everything across our people, across our technology, and across our products.
So what brought you here to Greenway Health?
You know, it was sort of a perfect storm, so to speak. I had been traveling considerably during my time here, living in the Tampa Bay for a while, and at the time when Vista decided to, and Greenway decided to make Tampa Bay the headquarters for the organization, the CISO at Vista, as well as a couple of managing partners, reached out to me and said, "Hey, we've got this organization in Tampa. We know that you live there locally. We know that you're on the road and you're interested in getting off. Would you be interested in having a conversation with them?" And so I said, of course. Being a dad who likes to be involved, it was something that sort of fit the lifestyle and was giving me back the quality of life that I was looking for.
Great. And now shifting gears, let's talk about Greenway Health. And now that you're here, let's talk about this security, and it's such a hot topic in the healthcare industry. First, let's touch on, what does Greenway currently do to protect and preserve the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information and infrastructure?
Yeah, so we do a lot, right? If you really break it down, right, infrastructure is the component, the backbone that sort of allows all the information to ride on it. And so we take a lot of steps to try and ensure that we've got not just technology in place, but processes in place and monitoring to ensure we've got eyes on the screen so that any events, any incident happens that impact the infrastructure that allows the information to ride on it is protected and secured. Now, we are a work in progress. I started here October 30th, I believe was my first day. And so since I've come on board, we had a number of components of technology in place. And my real goal was really around improving them and what I call taking them to the finish line of fully implemented, fully processed, and fully baked inside of our organization. The other part around information, right? When it comes to the aspect of information security, it goes way beyond just the infrastructure components that they ride on. There are components related to our end users, right? So meaning our corporate employees internally who actually utilize the data to service our customers and to service the people that we serve. Working with them to change the culture internally to make sure that they are aware of their actual responsibility and accountability as it relates to the protection of the information with which they work. When you look at my team and when you look at what my organization is chartered with doing, though we're responsible for protecting it, at the end of the day, we don't utilize all of it. So it's important that when I came on board that I messaged and began to try and ensure that from a cultural perspective, everybody knew their area of responsibility, and I began to hold people accountable to being responsible for handling the data that they work with on a daily basis, handling it responsibly. The last part is products, right? So prior to me coming on board, the organization had not put a lot of effort in putting a product security team together. And not that it wasn't important, it was just a secondary component to meeting customer needs and customer demands as it related to functionality. My coming on board, we put some serious focus around product security. I'm building out a product security team, and we're putting processes in place and integrating ourselves with the development process of all the applications that we build and utilize to service our customers. So, because at the end of the day, what our leadership team that's come into Greenway over the last year has recognized is that our customer success is driven by our success in keeping them secure.
And as the healthcare industry transforms, and I talked a little bit about this on the intro, we're hearing so much about cloud-based technology, cloud-based security. How is Greenway adapting to the ongoing changes in the healthcare industry when it comes to security?
Yeah, so we're trying to ensure that we allow nimbleness, right? So when I speak with our developers, when I speak with our product management teams, and we start looking at what is the strategy for the products that we are creating, and as they move to the cloud, what are the things that they need to do? My goal is to stay ahead of them. So when I talk to them about things they're doing, I'm looking 6 to 12 months out so that I can help them meet their actual needs in a secure manner. From a security standpoint, the myth that exists is that security has always been a blocker. Security exists to just not allow you to do certain things. But the reality is the advancements in the security industry that have happened over the last couple of decades have enabled a lot of things to actually happen securely if you just take the time up front to build it in. And that's where we really put a lot of our focus and a lot of our effort right now is for everything new that we're trying to do, we're trying to build it with security in mind and security as one of the focal points.
And as I mentioned, we hear so much about cloud-based technology. How is Greenway preparing for the future and cloud-based service?
Yeah, so as we move to the cloud, as the organization becomes more cloud-focused and cloud-enabled to better support our customers, one of the things we're doing is we're working very closely with the private cloud vendors that we are going into contract with. So we're understanding what their architectures look like. We're understanding what are the components that they have natively there, and then we're staying ahead by implementing other technologies to give us visibility into all of the transactions that are happening inside these cloud environments. One of the things that we've identified here at Greenway over the last few months is that as we move to this cloud to better service our customers and give them better capability and allow ourselves to be more nimble to respond to their needs and the ever-changing needs in healthcare, security has that same capability if we just think forward, if we put security as part of the focal point of what we're doing. And so I have been integrated into every architecture council, every discussion, every product roadmap, and everything that we're doing from an organizational standpoint. So as customer needs come in and changes need to happen inside of our applications, whether it be from a code perspective or whether it be from an architecture perspective, security is part of the discussion. So we can help them identify what are the roadblocks that we can help get out of the way from a security standpoint that will keep whatever the product and application is safe, thus inherently keeping our customers safe.
And how secure, is cloud-based technology in your mind?
It's actually really secure if you do it properly, right? The misnomers and the fear of the cloud that have happened over the last decade since its inception has really been around not knowing what the cloud is and not having a clear understanding of the components that make up the cloud. When the cloud first came into inception in its current form, it was really just virtual servers being put into these cloud, I'll say, hosted data centers that AWS and others were starting to build out. And so it wasn't very much different than a data center that you would host in your own environment. So during that time, to move to the cloud, because there wasn't a lot known about what those data centers looked like or what the security models were that those companies were using, a lot of people had a lot of fear because they were losing what they felt was control. We in the technology industry have for years felt that control, us being able to have our hands on it, us being able to touch it, meant secure, and it doesn't. And so as the cloud has evolved and things like microservices and other things have happened to allow us to be more nimble in the cloud, security has actually kept pace. There are a number of companies, there are a number of technologies and capabilities that allow security teams to stay ahead of what's happening, stay involved, and keep eyes on all the data that's flowing through the cloud and all the transactions that are actually happening, where that wasn't really understood before. I'll say probably the most important part to moving to the cloud is contractual liability. Customers have yet to fully grasp that if you have a contract structured properly, liability is not necessarily on you. And if you think about that from the standpoint of responding to a breach or responding to an incident, a lot of the hesitancy in moving to the cloud was because once it's out of an entity's control, they feel, well, if it happens in the cloud and there's a problem in the cloud, I don't know what to do, and my customers are going to look at me and I'm going to be fiscally liable. The reality is you can put a lot of things into your contract with your customer. Incident response. You can put an SLA around incident response that if something happens in the cloud, that there's a certain amount of time that they need to react and notify you that it happened. Liability of incidents. If something happens to your data when it's in the cloud, if you're working with a cloud vendor, today cloud vendors are quickly signing up and easily signing up and taking ownership and liability of a lot of the things that are happening in the cloud, because they are willing to take ownership because there's enough security controls in the cloud that can be enabled versus a customer doing it on their own. One of the things that a lot of customers also have not gotten is the economies of scale associated with moving to the cloud. So Greenway as a cloud provider, right? So we aren't really a hosting company per se like an AWS, but we utilize those types of services to leverage it to better serve our clients. Our ability to put technology from a security perspective, security technology into the cloud to benefit our customers is far greater than our customers' ability to install it on their own. We've got somebody like myself designated as the Chief Information Security Officer. I have multiple teams underneath me that are dedicated to product security and security operations and governance, where because of the economies of scale we're able to offer, we can do it far better than a customer can do it on site in their own environment. We've got the skill set, we've got the knowledge, we've got the background. Right, I've been in this business well over 25 years, and I've seen it transition to what it is today, both in the general industry and in the healthcare space. And so I think what we, as a cloud provider to our customers, I think what we're able to deliver is far more efficient.
Number one reason, if you could, what would you tell a customer who was maybe considering hosting it on their own or moving to a cloud-based system for their data?
I would tell them the number one reason to go towards the clouds versus on your own is the cloud is going to have the capability to implement far more security capabilities than you would in your own environment. Right? The majority of cloud vendors, including Greenway, we've got 24/7 monitoring. Most. Right, and so moving to the cloud, if you think about your on-prem solution and the total cost of ownership, right, of having an on-prem, so you're paying for the software itself, then you're paying for all the services for your IT team if you've got one internally or you have one outsourced to manage it and run it and govern it. Then you have to pay for all the ancillary technologies to include security to actually maintain it. Right, Windows licensing is expensive, security technology is expensive. Versus if you go to the cloud, where there's a different cost model, but a like cost over a 3 to 5 year period, but you're not taking on cyber liability insurance. You're not taking on all of the security technology to actually secure it. You're not taking on all of the risk and liability. So now you're putting that off onto another entity. You've honestly saved money.
And we'll be hearing more about cloud-based technology and security in the coming weeks at Engage, correct? And
That's
then
correct.
In the coming months, what are you discussing at Engage?
So at Engage, there'll be a couple of things. So I'm going to do a talk on data security, right, to just give an overall perspective on data security, what's happening in the industry and where things are going. There's going to be a panel discussion where I'll have some experts who will get up and participate with me in sort of a Q&A around what's happening in the healthcare industry. And then we're actually going to have a focus group that talks, that begins to ask some questions around security capabilities and functionalities in people's individual practices, trying to get an understanding of what's top of mind from a security standpoint. What are the things that they are thinking about? What are the things that they're dealing with? What are the things that are impacting them? And then lastly, we're going to have a conversation around Polaris and the security things that we're doing inside of Polaris to try and better enable customers.
And we look forward to hearing about all that. And if you have not yet registered for Engage and are interested in attending our annual customer event, it's August 10th through the 13th at the Gaylord National Harbor and Convention Center. That is in National Harbor, Maryland, August 10th through the 13th. For more information on Engage, visit www.greenwayhealth, and you will see the Engage icon right in the middle of our homepage. I want to thank Larry Whiteside. He is the Chief Information Security Officer here at Greenway Health and was my guest on today's episode of Putting Possibility into Practice, and we'll certainly be hearing more about data security and security in the cloud as we move forward in the coming months. I'm Joe Augustinelli, the Social Media Manager at Greenway Health. I invite you to subscribe to our podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, or on Google Play Music. Thanks again for listening to this episode of Putting Possibility into Practice, the podcast from Greenway Health.